You do the best you can with what you've been given. Don't allow this final goal to be the thing that drives you. Let it be what that's going to be, because if you work hard, if you take advantage of your opportunities, they're not all going to pan out, but they are going to keep pointing you to something bigger.
You just heard Jim Ranger. Jim Ranger has been doing music since he was 20, a pastor since he was 24. He performed all over the world, done national anthems for the Lakers around 20 times. He was on American Idol when he was 28, and The Voice when he was 38, and got runner-up. He recorded 3 solo albums and 2 EPs, 2 albums with a local band, Solajar. He's produced music for many other musicians as well. In today's show, we talk about the life journey of Jim Ranger. And later in the show, we talk about auditioning for The Voice and performing in an isolation bubble during COVID.
Welcome back to the Our 2 Cents podcast, the show where your local professionals sit down with an array of guests to hear their story and impart some wisdom for both business and life-improving skills. This is your place to hear business and community leaders discuss relevant topics that matter to you.
And welcome to the show today. My name's Troy Burden. I'll be your host. Before we get started today, I encourage everybody to go to our website and check us out. Also follow us on Facebook and Instagram. That's the best way to stay in touch with us, as well as you can subscribe to our newsletter and see all the episodes that maybe you had missed and go back and catch them. But most importantly, you can communicate with us, and we really appreciate the feedback. Well, it's 2022. This is the first recording. I wanted to hit it with a bang. I got a great friend here that we're going to talk to today. He is a tremendous guest, in my opinion. He has many titles, makes it very difficult for me, but I'm gonna throw him out there. So he's the son of a couple people I know very well that are pastors here that have been influential in my life. He's a brother of a artist, musician, of a young guy that runs around town and does a lot of gigs and works a lot of evenings in restaurants. Very talented man. He's a father of 3. He's a pastor of a great church here in Bakersfield, California. He is a musician. He's a songwriter. He's an influencer and a leader. Welcome to Our 2 Cents, Jim Ranger.
Hello, nice to be here, man.
Boy, that was hard on me.
Yeah, that's
Well, normally when you get a guy come in here or a person, they say, this is so-and-so, and he's a CEO or he's the president of.
Sure.
You got a lot of titles.
Yeah, I tend to dabble a lot. So I enjoy it though. I like having a barrage of things that I do.
I think dabble's not the right word. I think you are blessed with a lot of talent and they carry over to multiple facets.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
So, Jim, before we get started today, I was just thinking about this. I've known you for over 25 years.
Crazy.
I know. We're getting old. I know a lot about you. I know a lot about your family. I know a little bit about your history and your fame. I want to take this conversation way back, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, I'm in.
I want to talk about the journey when you were a little boy. And, I learned a little bit about you. I knew a lot, but I learned a little bit about you here in the last few days doing some research. I thought you were a California boy, and you ended up going back to Arkansas. I want to say I knew your mom was from Arkansas.
Yeah.
But I learned that you were born in Arkansas. And so start away, talk about when you're a little kid in Arkansas and how this journey of Jim Ranger started.
Yeah, so my parents, my dad's actually a Yankee. He's from Minnesota, but he moved down to Arkansas when he was a teenager. When he got down there, he met this fiery little
yes
redneck chick, and they got married young, and my dad was pastoring immediately. I think he took his first church at 21 years old, and that was in Conway, Arkansas.
Okay.
And that's where I was born, in Newport, Arkansas, and I was born in the same hospital, delivered by the same doctor as my mom when she was born. That kind of small community, right? Like there was one basic doctor who did all the deliveries.
Sure.
He would come in, when he delivered my mom, he was duck hunting, and he came in his camo jumpers and took it off, washed his hands, and delivered my mother. And so we were born in this lovely little town called Newport, Arkansas. And then we lived in Conway, where my dad pastored for a couple years, and by then we moved out. My dad, I don't know, he came out to be, it wasn't even the lead pastor at first. He came out here to a little church, a little Pentecostal Church of God over off of South Chester called New Life center. I think he was kind of an all around. He did worship, he did youth, he was an associate pastor, kind of all at the same time.
Whatever's needed. Take the trash
Whatever's
out.
needed. Yeah. And so then my brother was born.
How old were you then?
So I was not even old enough to really remember Arkansas.
Sure.
Now, the good news is we got to spend, my mom would always be homesick. So we would drive back to Arkansas a couple times a year. And occasionally when my dad would be able to save up enough money, we'd be able to fly back. So we spent a lot of time back and forth. And so I was probably like two-ish,
okay,
when we moved out here.
So when you guys moved to California, it was a church assignment, or were you guys kind of road tripping doing revivals?
No, this was a church assignment. So when we first moved out here, it was a church assignment. I can't remember exactly the details of how it unfolded, but basically Dad just kind of said he felt called to come this way. I don't remember how he made the connection with the church out here.
Right.
We were here for maybe it wasn't very long the first time. Maybe a couple years. And then my mom and dad, they got a motorhome and started traveling. So they had my brother. So me and my brother, our first, basically, 4 or 5 years of even remembering anything was in a motorhome traveling around the country.
You do remember some of that.
I do. That's my earliest memories.
Everybody would remember that.
It's my earliest memories, man. My mom and dad, and they'd have us sing on stage with them. We had a little number that me and my brother had worked up together. And yeah, we just bounced from these little churches all over, literally all over the southern country. So from California to Florida, back and forth.
How old were you when you can remember when you first started performing, singing, or whatever it was, with mom, dad, by yourself, however it worked?
It's before my earliest memories, because my memories started as we were on the road. And so there's videos that I've seen that I don't quite remember, but I'm probably 4-ish, 5-ish, somewhere in there. And then my early memories kind of start probably around 6 years old. And we had it was just like one song. It's called Diamond in the Rough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still remember it. Me and my brother jokingly sing it all the time.
I love it.
And we still have fun with that. Yeah, so we started really early. We were like a small, super Christian Partridge Family or something.
Well, whatever it was, hats off to your mom and dad. Being a pastor's kid has its own stigma, and you know it better than I do.
Yeah. That's a whole nother podcast.
But what I love about the Ranger family is, and I'll say this before many times today probably, the Ranger family is real.
Oh, that's awesome.
And if anyone asked me about the Ranger family, what they've done, the influence in my life, I would say they're real. They're not what people might think they should be. They are just who they are, and love them all. So
that's awesome, man. That's always been a big thing with my dad. So when he was brought up in that kind of traditional way of being a pastor, right? You got to look the part.
Yeah, wear that suit.
Yep. You got to look the part. And you hide everything that doesn't look the part.
Right. If it doesn't look good, don't let no one know about it.
Nobody. Right. So if you're fighting with your wife, nobody else knows about it. If you're having struggles with anything, depression or any of it, you never talk about any of it. And
anyone that's in the gospel world is perfect, is what they're supposed to be. And we all know the difference.
Yep. And my dad, he was out on the road. A lot of the changes that he felt and was out on the road. And when he came back to that same church to take it as the senior pastor, that was in 1988. I was 6, maybe 7 at the time, but we came back, and as he jumped into it, he knew how he wanted to lead, and that was to be a place where he always talked about it being a safe place, a spiritual hospital, if you will. And that's kind of been the motto ever since. And what he had to learn, because my dad was super uptight when he was, even as a kid, he was like 40 when he was 12, right? And so he really had to learn. We used to rag on him all the time because he tucked in T-shirts into his shorts, and when we'd go to the beach, and then we're just like, Dad, what are you doing, man? Chill out. And he had his little perfect mustache and his little pompadour hair. He had it all. But even in that's just who he is, by the way. That wasn't really that's just, he's built that way. He felt like it needed to be a safe place. And so against all of his mentors telling him otherwise, he lost the suit. He started to change up the music and kind of went down that path of like, I want this place to feel comfortable, whether you've been walking with the Lord for 30 years or you've never heard a single word about any of it.
Right.
And so part of the mantra has always been be real, be genuine. The thing we're pointing people to is not the man behind the pulpit. We're all pointing to Jesus. And so, so that's kind of.
Well, I will say this. I've watched you grow, become pastor, and lead Southwest many years, and I will call it success. And, you're walking the footprints of your father.
Yeah.
You have always been approachable. And I know that you have been, I don't know the right word, but as a pastor's kid, people look at you and think that you should be something else at times. And you've always been real.
Yeah, thanks, man.
And no matter what, your actions have shown people mercy, grace, and love. And that's what I get out of New Life or the Ranger family.
Yeah.
So that's
awesome.
Jump a little bit farther out there. When did you start realizing music was something that you wanted to do? When did you learn to play music? What's the first instrument you grabbed?
So music for me, it was funny. I being raised in it, I didn't realize that not all families did that. I literally thought everybody did music together. Like, I don't know why that was my assumption.
You would know in nothing different. But me looking outside, I have a hard time playing the radio. Sure. I look at the Ranger family, and every one of them are on the stage, and they all can play multiple things. It's like, wow.
So I remember being about 10, 11 years old, maybe 9, I don't know, but somewhere in that age. And I had a friend come over to stay the night. And we woke up the next morning. My dad would play the piano. He had this old upright piano. And every day, that's kind of how he started his day. He would be playing the piano. So I got up, go in there, and Mom was in the kitchen. She was getting stuff ready for us, and I come out. My brother comes out, and everybody's singing along together. And I remember turning and looking at my friend, and he's just like giving me this look where he's just kind of staring like confused at me. And I was like, what? He was like, you guys always sing together? I was like, yeah, you guys don't?
Doesn't everybody do that?
He was like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. So, yes, I was raised in it. And but I didn't take music anywhat seriously until they tried to give me lessons in piano. They bought me a guitar all around, anywhere from 10 to kind of 13, 14. But high school, I got a guitar, acoustic guitar, started learning some chords. And I think before it was just so hard when I was a little bit littler. And so I started to develop even in my coordination and different stuff like that. And so I started learning the guitar and I learning some chords and enjoying it. And I had a friend of mine, that always helps too. A friend of mine who started playing guitar and he was getting pretty good at it. So I was like, well, man, I want to play.
Here we go. A little competition.
Yeah, exactly. Sure. And so we all just kind of got into it at the same time. And so, about 14 is when I kind of started playing. 15, I started writing my own music, singing at church still. But it was kind of funny. Nobody at my school knew that I sung because I don't know. I was almost kind of embarrassed by it a little bit.
I will say this. I don't think everybody is a natural born singer. You know that very well, even though they may think so.
Yeah, I've done a lot of auditions.
And it's probably less than 10% of the population are very talented at it. So, I would think if you took your general population of your class and it's like, okay, there's maybe 2 of us that sing and maybe it's on Sunday at church or whatever. But I don't remember that being a majority thing in any population.
Yeah, no. And I wanted to blend in and, for me, again, being raised as a PK, you do have all these eyes and expectations on you.
Yep.
And you don't even really realize it at the time. You just know how it feels. And so I think when I was at school, I wanted to kind of disassociate any of that PK stuff, right? I just wanted to be Jim, the guy who plays basketball, plays golf, and is kind of silly and somewhat shy. So I was good being that guy. But then a friend of mine did start telling people that I would sing. I remember I had brought my guitar to school. This would have been sophomore year. I was so nervous, but another friend of mine was bringing his guitar. So we were going to sit around at lunchtime and play some guitars. And I started singing a song and a bunch of people gathered around and they were really into it. And I was like, oh, this is different.
Here we go.
So it unleashed something immediately. And so from then on, I couldn't care less. I just wanted to sing and I loved making people happy and got involved in chamber choir and I did it my last 2 years and then regretted that I didn't do it the previous 2 years, type of stuff. And my brother showed up too. So he started school at the same time. So we were both in chamber choir. As I was a junior, he was a freshman. So it was a whole bunch of things that really started to pile on. And at that point, I started taking music real seriously. It was kind of, I knew immediately then that it was something that was going to be a big part of my life for the rest of it. So
that's fun. That's fun. From there, Are you still in Arkansas now?
No. We're in California.
Okay, you're back in California.
Yeah.
So I know at some point, I want to say I knew you before you made the jaunt and says, I did know you now that I recall. I remember you were leaving the church and going to Arkansas.
Yes. So I was getting married.
And so were you getting married then, or did you already know that was a deal, or did you just happen to go back there to just find your own life and all of a sudden stumble over her and go, oh yeah, our moms hung out together and we were raised together?
No, so this is a great story. So my mom and her best friend, we were literally, I mean, when I say best friend, they're like basically sisters, right? They were always around each other. Her parents, both of their parents grew up back door to each other. So in the South, you don't have fences, right? So you look out your back door, you see their back door. Mm-hmm. So they lived all their life together, okay? Until my mom moved away and got married with my dad. And then every year when we'd come back, like I said, we traveled to Arkansas all the time growing up. We'd come, all the family would get together. Elizabeth, who was Camilla's mom, my wife, they would show up, her and her two sisters. So they would all come over. So it was just kind of the normal part of going to Arkansas. You'd visit all the family and Elizabeth and the girls would come over. And so I knew Camilla forever. I mean, literally forever. Matter of fact, my grandfather grew up on the streets of Newport, Arkansas, like a little crazy, I don't know, hobo dude. Man, he hopped a train. His first train he hopped it to Chicago from Newport, Arkansas at 13 years old.
Oh, wow.
Like that type of gypsy nomad dude. Okay. Wow. He would run around on the streets. Half the time he'd be barefoot. There was a lady in town who would help take care of him, who would, make sure he had shoes and stuff like that. Her name, we called her Sister Hampton, right? Mm-hmm. That is Camilla's great grandmother. So that's how far back our families go. Okay. And Newport is a small traditional town. Like it's really funny. Literally everybody knows everybody. Mm-hmm. Flash forward. Last time I see Camilla, she's probably, 13 years old. That was kind of the last time we saw each other. And every time we'd go back, she wouldn't come along because she'd have sports or different stuff in school. So I just didn't see her. So she's 18, I'm 18. I graduated. She is having a hard time. It's first year at college. She's having a tough time. She goes through a breakup. Her mom's like, I bought you a ticket to California to go see Lydia just to get out of town. Right. She was like, I haven't seen these people in forever. Yeah. Right. So she comes into town. She flies into the old Bakersfield airport, the old tarmac. So my mom was going to pick her up, but my mom has something come up. And she calls me and she's like, Jim, hey, I need you to go pick up Camilla. She's coming into town. I'm like, what? I don't know this girl.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen her since she was 13 years old. And all right, I'll go pick her up.
Whatever.
So I go and I'm standing there. Do you remember the old, it had the little windows right there. And they literally pull up right there and walk off, right?
Yep.
And so I'm sitting there waiting and I don't even know what she looks like anymore. And I'm just
maybe. Nope.
Exactly. That's it. I'm like, is that her? I don't know. Is that her? And all of a sudden she comes off and it was like a movie scene, dude. Everything slowed down. Her hair was kind of like
my God,
flipping in the wind. And I was like, oh, please be her. Oh, please be her. Sure enough, it is her. She comes in, she smiles big, and I'm like, wow, you grew up, right? So I was smitten, but I was playing it cool. Yeah. And so we drive, we're talking, and we go back to the church where my mom was at. And we walk in, and my mom still to this day talks about it. Because she was just like, oh my gosh, this girl is staying at our house for a week. And we didn't think this through very well. So, make long story longer,
That's awesome.
We hung out that week. It was just teenage romance to the max. I mean, I was just so smitten with her. I take her to the airport, drop her off, and like we're already just like, how do we make this happen?
Yeah, when am I going to hear from you?
Yeah, that's it, right? Like, how do we make this happen? Because I need this.
So,
happen.
Stop you right there.
Yeah.
Do you think that happened through default, or do you think your mom's had something up to do with this?
Oh, we have jokingly said that
this has been the plan the whole time.
It was a redneck arranged marriage, is what we call it.
Like, just make sure we're not related.
We thought that's it. Yeah, we had to do some genealogy stuff to make sure. It was really funny, man. Like, as great as it turned out, none of them saw it coming. Matter of fact, they fought it a little bit, because what happens next is she goes back to Arkansas. She has a layover in Dallas. She calls her mom, says, I'm going back. And her mom's like, yeah, sure. We'll send you back out there. And she's thinking, Mm-hmm. And Camilla's like, no, you understand. Like, I'm moving there.
Yeah.
And she was like,
I'm taking my stuff.
Okay. So that was in end of March. I flew out to Arkansas in the end of June, and packed her stuff in a U-Haul and drove it out to California. She moved out to California by, late July, August. We were engaged that December, and we got married that following June. So we got married at 20 years old. And we got married in my grandfather, lovingly known as Pawpaw, in his church in Swifton, which is just outside of Newport. Yeah, it was this little lovely, silly wedding.
That is so cool, and I'm so glad that we talked about Camilla because I know how vital she is to you, and you've expressed your love for her with magnitudes just by being real. And I know how much because anytime you're speaking or performing, people can see the love in your eyes.
Yeah. Oh, there's no question, man. She is. I got so lucky, man. I don't say that lightly. It's very rare. I know how hard it is for anybody to get married that young, and then we're going on 20 years this year. I don't know many people who get married that young who make it that long because you change so much through your 20s and your 30s, and I'm talking about every year you're having to adapt and grow. And
well, they say you should date people for a while before you decide to marry them, but you've known her since she was in diapers, so there's some history there for sure, but obviously not maturity and things like that.
On her end, yes, but not on my end.
Right.
No. So it was crazy, man. When we were getting ready to get married, we were leading into our wedding was in June. Her mom had lovingly but secretly had put all of her scholarships on hold. So my wife had scholarships in Arkansas, but they didn't transfer out of the state. So she had put them on hold. And so she calls Camilla and says, listen, all your scholarships on hold, but they're only hold for so long. And what we'll need to do is probably think about moving out there. So Camilla talks to me about it. And I was like, yeah, let's go. I'm 20 and I don't have anything really going on. I was taking like 2 classes at BC and working in the oil field. So I was like, I don't care. Let's go. Mm-hmm. So we moved out to Arkansas when the month we went on our honeymoon, came back, packed up stuff and moved out to Arkansas.
Came in Arky.
That is where, now we're talking about being a teenager and music was unleashed, but in Arkansas is where it turned into something real. I was out on my own. Nobody knew who I was. In Bakersfield, everybody knew me, in a general sense because of my parents, because of the church, because of whatever. I go to Arkansas and I don't know a soul besides I got a couple cousins and that's about it. Mm-hmm. We moved to Conway, Arkansas, and it's a beautiful, cool college town. Okay. There's 3 colleges in the town. At that time, there was about 40,000 people. Half the town was college students. Like it was the craziest, funnest place to move. Wow. But there's plenty of places to play music. So I got in with some guys, started playing music, and that was where it really kind of took shape, was writing songs, playing music, getting with some friends who also did that. And I worked any possible job. I worked probably 3 jobs at any given time, plus playing music. She was going to school full time. And that's kind of where the music took root. That's also where we started having babies.
I was going to say, babies are coming soon, right?
Yeah, so she's had problems. So she had endometriosis real bad. And so she wasn't really supposed to be able to have kids. And they told her if she was, the earlier, the better.
Yes.
We both wanted all the kids. We were all in, both of us just coming from large families that, not just necessarily like, it's just me and my brother, but we were a part of large families and we really wanted that. So we talked about it and we're like, you know what? And again, we're young and dumb, which is beautiful at the time. Cause it was like, it didn't really take
They don't cost that much money, do they?
No, we're fine, right? Oh man, yeah, I'm eating those words now. I got 3 teenagers, so
I know. I see that.
Everything is expensive now.
Yeah.
But so we were told that probably wasn't going to happen. She had like 6 surgeries by the time she was 18 years old. Wow. Like it was pretty bad, and had another one right before we got married, actually. They told us the odds weren't good. And after 3 weeks of trying, she was pregnant. We were like, oh, wow, amazing, miracle. After we had a daughter, everything went really well. And I'd come home in between my 2 jobs. I'd go to work as a cook from 5:30 in the morning till like 2. And I'd come home, and then I had about a 2-hour gap before I would go and drive pizzas in the evening for about 3 or 4 hours, make some extra change.
Right.
So I had this 2-hour gap. I'd come home, I'd take a nap. So I'm laying on the couch, I'm holding my baby girl, brand new. She's, I don't know, she's little, real little. And my wife comes in, she was like, so what do you want to name our second kid? And I was like, baby, I don't know. Stop
Yeah, I'm trying to
take a
sleep.
nap. I'm trying to hold my daughter. Like, just,
I got 2 hours.
Turn and I look at her, and she's got crocodile tears in her eyes.
She's rubbing her belly.
And she's holding one of the little pregnancies. And and it still is not quite registering because I'm, again, half asleep. All of a sudden it hits me, and I was like, you are kidding me. So we always joke that when God shows up, he shows out.
Yeah.
And he went overboard. We had 2 kids. And they are 11 and a half months apart.
Wow.
So we went from 2 to 4 real quick. Yeah, Arkansas, it was a short time, man, but it was a magical time. It was it established a lot of things for both of us.
Yeah, your parents have never been shy to celebrate their kids and talk about what you're doing, where you're at, family.
Yeah.
And especially because I was so close to them, I was kind of in that circle. I mean, I knew them. They were my friends. They're not just pastors of mine. Your parents were my friends, still are. And when I knew that you were coming back, that was an exciting time at New Life. I remember a lot of the young pastors, and then you came in, and then you brought in music. Music touches my soul a different way. Speaking obviously does too, but as you know, as a musician, music can penetrate people differently than speaking. It can pierce their soul very quickly. And I seen it in my children at church and so on. And when you started performing, and when my kids said, "Is Jim playing this weekend?" I knew that you were doing something extremely special. And I knew you had the talent. But don't get me wrong, your mom and dad rocked, and they still do. And I mean, I remember the Christmas concerts and all that. And then you came out of your I don't want to call it your shell, but you basically took it on full time and made it your passion. And then all of a sudden, and I might be missing a lot, I remember you had an opportunity to go on
the first time.
First time.
Yeah. So American Idol. So American Idol, it was
so before
limit.
You tell me about it, what's the process? Did you and the wife sit around one day and go, "Hey, let's send in an application to American Idol"? How does that work? Make a phone call. I mean,
so here's the deal. I'm not a very driven person to promote myself.
Well, that's where I'm going, because I know how humble you are, and I know this has to be driven from someone like your mom, maybe your wife. Somebody that's that person.
So a good friend of ours, her name's Shauna Johnson. She just passed away this last year. God rest her soul. She was always on me about going on American Idol. And I was just like, "Shauna, I'm not going on American Idol." And she was like, "Okay, I got an idea." And she just walked away. That was the end of it. So then she gathers a bunch of people. She finds out that there's one more audition.
She builds a committee.
She finds out there's one more audition city in New Jersey.
Okay.
I've never been north of like Missouri. Okay. Georgia is about the most north on the East Coast I've ever been. So
that's not very north.
No, it's not at all. She gets it in her idea that she's going to send me to New Jersey. So she gathers up some people, gets some money, buys me a ticket, registers me, and then tells me. So I was like, "Wait, are you for real right now?" She's like, "Yes.
Next Tuesday.
I've already cleared it.
Here's your flight."
No. It was like literally, I think it was on like I don't even remember what it was. I fly to New Jersey, never been in, don't even know anything. I'm by myself.
Sure.
Get to this hotel, go. It's at, what's the Giants and the Jets stadium? I can't think of what it's called right now.
Gillette.
Yep. So it's at that stadium. So I take this taxi down there. I get there. There is 20,000 people wrapped around this building for this thing. And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, what am I getting into?" So I get in line. I wait all day long. Finally, and it's like herding cattle, right? They have like 12 booths set up. This first step of the process. They got like 12 booths set up. And you go up 4 at a time. And you sing for 15 seconds. And they go to the next. And they go to the next. And they go, "You 1 and 3, you're through. The other 2, you're not right for the show. Thank you for coming." That's it, right? So as I'm walking up, I'm just
so we have thousands auditioning.
Thousands.
I know they narrow it way down before we start getting live on air.
Yeah. Oh yeah. This is the first
How many
step.
do they take through phase 1, if you want to call it? A couple hundred?
I don't know. I know that it is,
but it narrows. It's huge.
No. I would say 1 out of 10 probably, give or take, somewhere.
We'll call it 10%. Yeah.
So that's 20. So that's probably a couple thousand people that get through that first step. Then you go through. There's like 3 or 4 steps before you get to what you see on TV. So I have all this people invested money to get me to this place. I've stood in line for a full day. I get up there to sing my song. I sing about 15 seconds of it, and they tell me no. That's the end of it.
Okay. First try.
So, yeah. I'm 20. I don't know, 26.
So you're looking at your plane ticket and going, okay, I depart at 3:00.
Yep. And then, but I have to tell everybody. That's like,
well, sure. That's
right,
the hardest part.
The hardest part. So I call everybody and tell them what's going on. And they just can't believe it. They were so sure because of the way it worked out and all this stuff. So the next year was, they had a video audition, a little on their website. They had a video audition.
Okay.
So
make a clip, send it in type deal?
Type of thing, right? So I had already started kind of making these little clips. This is like,
sure.
This is probably, I don't know. What was this? Probably like 08, 09?
Probably.
Somewhere in there.
I would say.
So I get home, I see this, because I was already part of this email thing now because of the year before. So they send it in this email that says, you can send an audition. I was like, I'll send it in. And I send it in. And it's literally like the most grainy thing. Because this is, again, there's not that best of a, this is like pre-iPhone, I think.
No, I get it. 08, yeah.
So grainy, not great sound quality. I hit send. And then it tells me error. And I was like, all right,
I don't
this
have
wasn't
to fix
meant
that.
to be, right? Yeah, exactly. Close it. I'm done.
I don't have a tech, guys. We're done.
Exactly. So I get an email a month later that was like, hey, we loved your audition. Why don't you come down?
What?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm skipping. Let's go back. So the next season, this is how I got on the email. The next season, my brother says, I want to go try out for American Idol. It's at the Rose Bowl this time.
Okay.
So he goes, but I don't want to go by myself because he already heard my horror stories from the year before. Yeah. So go with me. And I was like, yeah, I'll go with you. So we're getting up there. Well, he sees the line that I saw wrapped around the Rose Bowl. And he's like, don't make me do this by myself. Audition with me. And I'm like, no, dude, I already did this. I'm done. He's like, no, Jim, just do it with me. Don't make me walk down there by myself. I was like, all right. So we sign up, we go, and we get up to the little cattle herd. It's me and John now standing next to each other.
Yeah.
And these other two people. And so we both get through to that part. Here was the funny thing, too. The lady who told me no.
Oh, here we go.
Is the exact same lady who was like, oh, my God, I loved it. And guess what? I sing the exact same song.
Go figure.
The exact same song. And she loved it this time.
Does she know that?
No, I tell her this later.
Okay. I wondered if you had an opportunity to speak with her.
I did. Yeah. I told her after, and she was cracking up. She was like, yeah, that's just how it is, man.
That's how the wind blows.
We're looking for certain people. And
isn't that interesting?
Yeah. Anyways, so we get through, John gets through most of the steps, and then they'd cut him right before you get to the one you see on TV. And so I got to do that, went through that. My age, I was 27 at the time, and make it to Hollywood Week. It was unbelievably fun. I mean, it was crazy, but it was something I'd never experienced. I mean, it was not even close. Because it's not really music. I mean, it's a reality TV show. And
yes.
I get done. I go to Hollywood Week. I'm cut on the first day. They don't give you explanations or anything. You're just, you sing great.
Thank you.
No, thank you. So that was the end of it. Next year is when I get the email, asked me to send in. Didn't even know I sent it in. And they invited me back. And so 3 years in a row. And so I made it to Hollywood Week again. And that was the end of it. I was like, made it to Hollywood Week twice. Age 28 was the cutoff of maximum age on that show.
Okay.
So I was 28. I had a blast.
Yeah, you got some experience.
Oh yeah, and met great people. Really is cool. It's just this like collection of singers and people from all over the United States, and you're just shoved together, and so you get to know each other.
Some with zero talent. And some
yeah. No, there's definitely those.
Yes.
So we had a blast, and I made relationships there that I still am friends with to this day.
Very neat.
And got connected with songwriters, started writing songs with people, traveling down to LA, doing music down there, started doing demo work. Like it opened up a whole different avenue of music that I never would have expected.
So we got a lot out of it. That's awesome.
It was perfect. It was actually the perfect thing because I would have been a wreck on American Idol because it's just, I am not that shiny and flashy. Like it's not how I'm built. And I know one of the guys who did make it through, and he made it to, I don't know, top 10-ish, 15-ish, something like that. And he was just like, dude, it was cheeseball all the time. Like It was drained him. And so anyways, I felt like I got the great experience out of it. I got to be on TV for a minute. My kids got on TV. They were real little at the time. I had ugly long hair, but it was a blast, right?
You were an influence, and now you're building Jim Ranger that we know.
Yes.
What I say by that, you were already the pastor, you already had music talent, people know you that go to church or maybe went to school or ran in your circle, whatever you want to call it. But now the media's got you. Even if you're not hitting it big, you've made it past phase 1, 2, 3 or whatever.
Yep.
And now the radio stations are calling you, the podcast guys are calling you, and they're saying, hey, we got a local artist from Bakersfield that's may be on the stage here in a couple weeks. So now you're getting a fan base. That's what I'm trying to say. A bigger fan base.
Yeah. And for me, it honestly, it unleashed another section of me when it comes to music and performing and realizing that, it's lovely being a big fish in a small pond. It's so great. But there's always that question of like, if it's not my friends and my family and the friends of friends who are showing up to see me, does anybody care? Like, does my music actually sound good to people or whatever, right? And that unleashed something in me that was like, oh yeah, I do this. This is what I do. And that's a pivotal age too, right? Getting into that 30 mark, there's a shift that starts to happen in you internally as well. So I think it was all like collectively this really lovely moment for me as well as for my wife. It was really cool to be a part of that whole time. And it was kind of a flash in the pan, which was really great the way I'm built. I'm all in. Like, I have moments of extrovert and then 90% introvert. Sure. Right. It was great. Like, boom, big flash, got to do all the stuff.
Right. And you go back to your shell.
Go back to my shell. They start a new season. Nobody remembers me anymore. That's great. And so the next 10 years, I got to play music, and I played with this band called Songwriter here in town, local band. Sure. My buddy Brian Boozer, who's got a beautiful studio here in town called Alm Studios, and we had a blast. There was just enough of that sprinkle of American Idol that, people would show up to hear local guy, like you said, fan base kind of starts to happen a little bit.
Jim, do you think you not making it to the big stage, if you want to call it that, the final, I guess, humbled you and made you who you are today? Do you think if you had fame at that age, obviously things would be different, and we don't know what that would be like. Yeah. But looking back, do you feel like that was a very pivotal point in your life, and the way it worked out is probably to the best? Or do you think that opportunity was missed?
Oh, no. There is nothing that I feel missed. It was unbelievably fun and empowering and all that stuff, right? The good stuff. And I never felt rejected, because the second you get there, you realize it's a TV show. If you have any common sense whatsoever,
reality TV,
all the expectations of like hitting fame and whatever, go out the window, because you're just like, oh no, this is just like The Bachelorette or something. It's just now singing, and you realize that real quick. At least I did. And so for me, it was like, oh, okay, well, whatever happens, happens. This is a fun little, it's like getting to go to a movie set.
Sure.
That's always fun. If anybody ever gets a chance to go to a movie set, you're going to go, because it's fun and you get to see all behind the scenes. And that's exactly how I viewed it. I was developing as a man, as a person into that time as well. And so what had happened was I'd really kind of come to this place where I'd really was honing in on this principle of living that is, you do the best you can with what you've been given. Don't allow this final goal to be the thing that drives you.
Right. Let it be what it is.
Let it be what that's going to be. Because if you work hard, if you take advantage of your opportunities, they're not all going to pan out, but they are going to keep pointing you to something bigger and something cooler, and it will keep unfolding into something. And so for me, I was kind of already starting to develop this mindset, As I went through that process, it definitely taught me this valuable lesson, which is this could be a negative thing if you only see it in this idea that you were rejected. But that's such a minuscule part of the reality of what I got to experience. Because the reality of it is again, everybody got to have this fun time with it. I got to meet cool people. I got to experience a cool thing. I got to sing in the Kodiak Theater down in Hollywood there, like all kinds of really crazy, stupid, cool stuff that I, first of all, didn't earn.
Right.
It's not like I had been out there grinding and I finally had my moment and blew it, right? This was like I got plucked in the middle of a giant group of people, like, here, go try that. And then I got to try it, and that's the end of it. It's like a little ride I got to be on.
And you got a lot out of it.
So much.
Yeah. So memories, friends.
Yep.
Experience.
And that's the biggest thing. I am all about experience, man. When people ask me, what do you want me to get you for your birthday? An experience. What do you want me to get you for Christmas? An experience. I don't need a new watch. I don't need whatever. Me and my wife, for Christmas, she took me to Cambria for 3 days just because she knows I'd rather go sit at Cambria and eat some good food and have some good wine than I would ever want a pair of Jordans, right? It's just always how I am.
Me too.
So that's what this was. It was an experience. But again, internally, I do think there was this beauty that made me realize that perspective is everything. If you recognize that, and I could have done horribly, right? I could have messed it up. But even if that was still the case, it was still this idea that none of this was a part of some plan. it was this added thing that I got to experience and be a part of. And I took nothing negative away from it. And I didn't have to work for that. Like, it's not like I went through therapy to find that place.
Sure.
It literally just, that's how it felt the entire time. I hated telling people I got cut. That's always the worst part, because they're always just, people are far more disappointed than I ever was. Ever was. They'd just be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe, and then you have to explain it to them. And we didn't have the podcast setting to where I could walk through all the perspective.
I get it.
But flashing forward a little bit, when I did get to this process of The Voice 10 years later.
That was 10 years.
10 years later.
So you were done for 10 years before you made the step over to The Voice. Now, obviously, you probably seen it on TV before you even knew about it.
Sure.
Did you immediately go, I want to do this? Or did somebody approach you again and say, hey, let's do this thing again?
Yeah, this is another aligning of the stars kind of moment.
Okay.
Yes, me and my wife were watching this season that was happening, and I got on their website and was looking, because I couldn't remember if they did 1 season a year or 2 seasons a year. So I got on their website to look at it. Guess what? There's this little tab that says send in a video.
Upload.
Right? And this time I didn't have to do anything other than just a YouTube link and send it. Literally, YouTube link, email address, and that was it. Sent it off.
Got it.
And even in the moment, it was almost like I almost giggled because of what had happened 10 years before. Right. And I was just like, well, that'd be funny. So I sent it off. And this was in probably like November-ish. In December, I get an email that says, we reviewed your video and we would love to invite you for an audition for The Voice. And I was like,
that's 2019.
This is 2019.
Yep.
Yes.
I remember.
So I called Camilla. I was like, hey, I'm going to forward you this email. Is this real or what? So I sent it to her. She was like, holy crap, Jim, I think this is real. So I called the lady up who said, give me a call. I give her a call. And it's the casting company that does the first stage of this. So we get invited, come down in January. It was like, I don't know, second week of January of 20. Go down there. I show up. And so I'm 38 now, maybe 37 at the time. Yeah, 37, 38. And I show up there. And it's a whole different experience, because you're not showing up with thousands of people. You're showing up with like 30 people that all have this same time slot.
Sure.
And it's at a sound stage there in Burbank. So you show up and I walk in and there are like 10, 15 gorgeous 20-something-year-old people in shiny outfits. And they have all this, like, they look like they just stepped off a movie set, right? And I'm basically wearing what I'm wearing now, which, we're on a podcast. So it's a flannel. I had a jean jacket on, some boots. Yeah. And that was about it. Right. So I am like, oh, wow. Camilla's parked outside. So she drove with me, but she couldn't come in. So I'm like texting her and I'm like, baby, I'm the oldest person here by at least 10 years. And everybody's beautiful. And she's just dying, right? She's like, just go in there and sing your tail off and have fun. I'm like, okay. So I walk in. And it went so good. I mean, luckily, 10 years later, at this age, I'm pretty comfortable in my own skin.
Yeah,
right?
You can take whatever it is. And
I know how to read a room, right? I've been a pastor this whole time. I've been on stages this whole time. So now I know how to read a room. I'm not afraid to engage. And again, perspective-wise is, worst case scenario, they tell me no, right? Like, okay.
Experience,
so
check.
We go in. I actually have them laughing. We're having a good time. I sing my songs and they're throwing pencils at me and like just loving it, right? Like just woo, hooping and hollering. It was blast. And so we walk out of there and the girl who I had talked to initially, she was like the recruiter and she was like, you made me look awesome. Like, thank you. You killed it in there. And I was like, oh man, wow, this went really well. So it's like, okay, so here's the deal. We put together, like we send it to the executives and then they start to invite people to this next stage.
Right.
Okay. So she said, don't be worried if you haven't heard from us in like a month or so, because it takes a while. I was like, okay. Anyways, so you flash forward and pandemic hits.
Yeah, I knew that was coming, and lots of change now.
Everything changes, right? Okay. And so they basically tell us, we don't even know if we're going to make a show.
We don't even know if this is going to move on.
We have no idea. We do still loved your audition, and we'll let you know.
We'll keep it on hand and let you know.
I hear nothing for months. Nothing.
Okay.
All of a sudden, I get a call, and they're like, so we figured it out. We're going to start shooting, but here's the thing. You got to move down here, and you got to be in isolation the entire time you're here. And you do this blind audition. There's like 80 people or something that's going there to do this blind audition. You don't even know if you're going to get the blind audition, because if the teams fill up after 40 people,
you're done.
You're done, right? So you don't know if that's going to happen. You got to be in isolation for like 3 weeks or something crazy at this time. Like, I don't remember what it was. It was crazy. And I was like, okay. So I was like, I got to talk to my wife. And so I get off the phone, I talk to her, and she's just looking at me like, you're going to do this, right? Like, this is something like you're not passing on. So we start going through the process, and we get down there, they drive me down there, they drop me off, and I'm emotional basket case. Even when they dropped me off, I took a video because I was crying so hard that I was making myself giggle, because in my head, it was like, I've never been away from all 4 of them, my wife and my 3 kids. I've never been away from all of them for longer than like a week. Me and Camilla will go somewhere for a couple weeks or whatever, but to be gone that long has never happened. And I know the shortest amount of time, even if I don't get through the blind audition, is a month. So I'm feeling out of my element, and I'm in this place, and I'm literally stuck in my room for the first 10 days. You can't leave your room. They have food delivered to you, nothing. So you're stuck in this hotel room, and it's just a beige hotel room. Nothing else. There's not even a view really, like just a beige prison. So we get through that.
I think everyone can see that hotel room.
Yeah, everybody knows it, right? It's the one.
Well, that's got to be hard. You're isolated. You're nervous because you got a chance to perform on a huge stage. There's a pandemic going on. You've left your whole family, the church, your job. You're just almost like you said.
Oh, yeah. It's fish out of water,
It's
man.
almost a prison, man.
It was pretty intense.
And you probably know 0 people there. Obviously, you got to know them over time, but
yes.
Wow.
But the first little bit was rough, right? Obviously, being in isolation, and also, in the middle of like, this is when a whole lot of our country was kind of going nuts. And as a pastor, like, I'm always like kind of in the middle of trying to figure out how to help.
Yes,
I'm not trying to direct people, but I am trying to spiritually be there for them as they process life and things and tensions and whatever else. And so there's tons of this tension that's going on, and I'm stuck in this bubble down a couple hours away from everybody.
Sure.
And it's boiling over there because everybody's talking, and it was a pretty crazy thing. But what happened is it wound up being like more or less a sabbatical.
Okay.
Like, because everything
you turned it off.
It was all there. And to be honest, I knew that my wife had everything under control. My kids, it was locked down. So my kids were at home.
Yeah.
Right. So like for everybody else, that was like annoying. But for me, it was like, I felt bad for my wife, but I was kind of like, everybody's safe. Everybody's at home. Everybody's they're all locking down. They're all doing their thing.
At this point, are you doing daily activities for the voice, or is it like you might be sitting in your room for 4 days before you even hear from them?
Yeah, no, you would have certain little things that would happen, but basically, in order for them to get all the process done, because of everything took longer, right? Everybody. So if you're dealing with wardrobe, what used to have 10 people go at once, now they have to have one person go at a time.
Yeah.
So everything just took longer.
Got it.
And so working with the band, all of that, they'd have to transport one person at a time and back and forth. It was crazy. It was so funny watching people that were like contestants getting frustrated. And I'm just like, Are you kidding me? Like, do you understand? Me, on a small scale, we do pretty large production at our church,
you sure
right?
do.
So I'm already imagining, now you times that by 1,000, and I can't imagine what they're going through, right? So that's how my brain's working, right? Like all the producers and all the PAs and all the whatever. Finally gets time, and it's great. So we work with the band. I'm getting excited. We're coming up to the day for the blind audition, and you get to go in there and you do the stage rehearsal, and you finally get to see the room, and the red chairs are in front of you, and the whole thing. So it felt good to finally be at a place where we were like, it was here. So at this point, it kind of became that, again, who cares now, right? We're going to get up there, we're going to sing this song, and whatever happens, happens. And but man, it's literally 10 seconds before I'm going out is when the adrenaline kicks in full time.
Sure.
And I've never experienced adrenaline like this. It was the most, like I could feel it in my feet underneath the stage. Like it was like humming. Like it was so intense of this excitement. And I'm taking deep breaths.
An outsider looking in with no talent. And I speak to large crowds from time to time.
Yeah.
And I know how hard it is, like holding a mic. I mean, I'm shaking so bad. It looks like I have some kind of a rare disease. And I just don't know how not anybody with a talent of singing with those nerves can actually deliver anything pretty.
Man,
I just don't know how you do it. I mean, nerves are everything. I mean, if you play golf, you play sports, you sing, and you and many other voice contenders, it's just you get up there and just let it flow, man. And it's like, how do you do that?
There is a bit of experience for me is a really big deal. You know, I've on small scales, I've been able to do. So obviously I did the American Idol thing back a decade ago.
Yeah.
But I had done the national anthem for the Lakers a dozen times.
Okay, so you've already done 12 for the Lakers.
Yeah, so I'd had so many of these moments where it's like
stage.
It's like these little micro versions of that, because you got 20,000 people looking at you, a spotlight on you, and you got these 7-footers standing around you while you sing a cappella, one of the most difficult songs to sing.
Absolutely.
So you have these moments where you can kind of understand that the nerves for me start from my walkout to when I stop.
Yeah.
But the second I start singing, it's just music. The second I start singing, it's just music. It's just a microphone. It's just a guitar.
You go in your happy place.
And I've done this a million times.
Got it.
So it's that old adage, right? It's like preparation.
I do the same thing. Just like when we started the podcast, my first 1 minute, I'm shaking, I'm jumpy.
Yeah.
And then I just settled into my seat and we just talk.
That's exactly it. And so no matter how big the stage is, if you can keep going back to that, just trusting your experience. Once I started, I almost blacked out, to be honest. Like, not like passed out, but like one of those moments where it's like I blinked,
I'm sure that's
and it was
a
over.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like you just go to that place. So it goes really well. 3 chairs. And then, of course, Kelly didn't turn, but she griped the entire time that she didn't turn. She was like, I should have turned.
Yeah. So
it was amazing. Like when John was the first one to hit. John Legend hit his within 5 seconds of me singing, 2 seconds. I don't know. And as soon as I see that turn around, it was...
Hey, you even got the sound effect.
I did, right? Seen that. And here's the funny thing. Those sound effects are not there in real life. Those are added posts.
That's TV, but TV.
So, yeah. So, it's all... You just see it. And it's just like, you hear the sound, but it's not actually really happening. So he spins around. As soon as that happened, it was like this like... lightness that just hit too at the same time, because then you're like, oh, I'm here. Like, I'm on the show. I don't care anything else that happens now. And
you passed the test.
And they all turn around, ended up picking Blake.
Was that hard for you?
Yeah, I guess.
Did you premeditate that?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
I mean, if Blake hadn't turned around, I wanted to pick John. That would have been, but honestly, I didn't care. I wanted to be on the show, and they're all great. And Gwen is an angel. She is lovely. Yep. She's just as lovely as you would think she would be. She's so sweet and gentle and generous. Like with her time, she would talk to everybody. And so, I was in the entire time, and I almost did switch over to John just because they had this whole huge thing that they put on before. He had this whole video about Blake's a liar and
a reality TV.
They did all the stuff.
Oh yeah.
But in the end, man, I told Camilla beforehand, I'm going to be 100% gut led. I'm not going to overthink anything this entire time. Whoever picks her, I'm just going to go with my gut and not really worried about making a wrong decision. Because again, I don't really think there's a wrong decision to be made. I think it could have worked out 100 different ways. I was on the show. That's all I cared about. So I couldn't process too many thoughts in that moment because adrenaline was going and the excitement and all that stuff. So when it came time to pick, I just said, Blake. And he already had this connection with Bakersfield, which I knew. Yep. And for me, I knew that I wanted this to have impact at home. That was the biggest thing for me, was because I knew what was going on here.
Yeah. I mean, those are the things that most of Kern County or nationally or worldwide know. You got to see in the streets of Bakersfield.
Yeah.
With Blake.
Yeah, and that was kind of a bookend thing too, because
I know
on impromptu at the blind auditions, we kind of, started.
But just even making it is for someone like me is just not really fathomable. But to know that you had to live in a bubble for 5 months, to go through the whole process. I mean, we're talking early in the game now, but you performed, and then what I do know is you got to meet some amazing artists, and I know you're close with them, and I think that you've even done some performances with them, maybe brought them into the church or whatever, and from time to time, and maybe those were American Idol people, or maybe those were
both in. So I did have one of the friends that I met on American Idol years ago. I had her come in and help lead worship. She was actually on my last album I did.
And so, Jim, I'm going to talk like a layman here, because that's what I am when it comes to music. I heard Don't know where, don't know why, don't know if it's true. If you get to the stage that you were, you're going to get a record deal regardless if you win the thing or not. Is that true?
No.
Okay, there you go.
No. No, it's actually just the opposite. It can happen,
but
it actually rarely happens. I could have gotten a record deal, but it wouldn't necessarily be a good one.
Sure. So your exposure obviously was worldwide.
Yeah.
Did your life change drastically after that was over? Meaning, did people start reaching out to you? Did people attack you in the grocery store? I know the radio stations were calling in the news stations, including me and so on.
Yeah.
And your buddy Derek Jeffries, I think he's family. He was on here. We were talking about you, and I didn't even know you guys were related. So, it's like, wow, it's a small world.
It is funny, man. Like, we go back. So his dad and my grandmother are brother and sister.
Okay.
So we're like third cousins. I don't know, something like that.
Yeah.
But we grew up with them because when we moved to California, they were the only family we knew out here. So George and Linda and their kids, they all, they all started hitting us up. Yeah.
Sure. Well, people think, Tiger Woods doesn't go to the grocery store and grab a gallon of milk. I mean, you just don't do it. Maybe he does. Maybe I'm completely wrong, but I just, you are famous now.
It was really funny. So when I come back again, most everywhere was mask mandated. So it was perfect. Because I had to wear a mask all the time. So nobody knew I was. But if the second I put on, if I have on, like right now, I'm wearing a ball cap, right? If I have a mask on, majority of people aren't going to recognize me. The second I put on I pretty often wear my straw hat. It's my favorite hat in the world. I wear it pretty regularly. I wore it on the show one time.
I seen it.
So if I have that hat on, it's nonstop. It's the funniest thing.
You're recognized,
it's like, I feel like Superman and Clark Kent sometimes. It's like the hat is the cape and taking the glasses off.
It's like
when I first came home, it was nuts. I remember, so everything was pretty shut down. I came home, this is December 16th, 20. That's when the show ended, was on the 15th or 16th.
Yes.
So I come home the next day. And
it's been 5 roughly months.
It was
Isolation.
6 months. It was 6 months, but I'd come home for a month in between the sections of the show.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I come home. It's really funny because everything's pretty locked down. We do Christmas and then we go to the mountains. Me and my wife, my kids, we go to the mountains. We disappear for a week and a half, 2 weeks, just for us two, right? Or us 5 to get together. So we go up there. We have a great time. We come back home and I take my first trip to Target. I'm not even thinking about it. So.
Well, that's because you're who you are.
I guess. Maybe it's just dumb. But I go to Target and it's me and Camilla. And we walk in the door. Immediately, out of my peripheral, I start seeing people do that whole like hand over the face and kind of whispering to whoever they're with.
Yeah.
And they're cutting their eyes at me, and I was like,
pointing.
And I'm still looking around, like, what are they looking at? Like, and then Camilla starts cracking up. She's like, "Oh, I don't think you're ready for this." I was like, "What?" And just at that time, somebody comes in like, "Can we get a picture with you?" I was like, "Yeah." So I take a picture, and that started a trickle. And I stood there and took pictures with people for like 20 minutes because we happened to be still right at the front of the store. Oh my! So now I feel like I'm like the Santa or something.
Photo booth.
Photo booth.
Yeah.
So I finally we make our way around, and that trip that we went to pick up like 5 things ended up being like an hour and a half of telling people my story and taking pictures, and it was hilarious, man. But it was wonderful, and that's everything. And again, I the most magical part about all this, the experience was everything.
Sure.
Right? I joke all the time. It's like, as an adult, it's like playing make-believe with a multi-million-dollar budget, right? Like, It's insane. You have the best of the best clothes and the stylist and the production people. And I mean, these are top tier of everything. A blast. But the magic was what our community got out of it. Mm-hmm. Like, everywhere we're a year later.
Sure.
And still the first thing people say when they hadn't seen me, maybe since I'd come back or whatever. Right. Oh my gosh, man, I can't tell you. You were the best part of 2020. Me and my family, we got together every single Monday and Tuesday night just to watch you. It was something we all look forward to. And it's constantly, that's the thing that people talk about. And I just, that's the magic of it, because the memories I'll have with me forever, but that impact that we had on the community during a time where there just wasn't much to look forward. I mean, this is right in the middle of the election. This is right in the middle of like all that stuff.
Yep.
And it's that's the magic, man. Like
I remember driving around like the Fox Theater. You know, I know some businesses had billboards and electronic billboards that were rolling around.
Yeah, my face was everywhere. I'm so glad I wasn't here for that.
I think there was some TV press, a lot of TV press, updates all the time.
All the time. All the time.
I will say this. I'm glad that you got the experience, and I'm glad you did so well. But I will say this. You represented Kern County extremely well. And back to what I said earlier, you're real, you're humble, and that's Kern County.
Yeah, man.
I love it. But what else did you teach? This is the sign. These are the things that I look a little deeper in rather than just taking it from the surface. You represented something. You took risk a lot. Not everybody could handle, and I don't call it failure because there's zero failure here.
Yeah. But
some people can't handle any rejection at all, regardless if it was a fit or not. And it could have crushed some people, and you rebounded. And this is the entrepreneurship in me and the podcast and what we believe in is most successful people. These are learning steps. These are opportunities, and you took what it was worth and you got out of it what you could. And I value that. And I'm grateful to know you, but your kids learned that if you have a dream, chase it.
Yeah.
And at some point in your life, and I don't know if that was at 20 or if at 15, you knew music was your passion, and it was the missing part. Don't get me wrong. You do ministry well. You do Jim Ranger well, but music is Jim Ranger. People love you for that, and I can't say enough about it.
Thanks, man. I am always a pastor, right?
Well, music, even though you might be singing,
yeah,
you're ministering to people.
Absolutely. But even if I'm not, my point is like, I am pot committed to helping people find more out of life.
Yep.
Right. Like that's all I care about. And, the ministry aspect, like, honestly, like I don't do a ton of like the ministry like I did before. Right. I'm not organizing men's groups and all that stuff anymore. My wife, she's the campus pastor now. She kills it, and she's so good at it. For me, I love being a pastor, man. I love being there for people's best days and worst days. And hopefully helping them find perspective. And so I knew, like, for me, music is always going to be a part of my life, but no matter what I do, caring for people is the call that I have accepted, for the rest of my life. And music is this vehicle that allows me into certain parts of people's lives that I would never have access to. I don't know what it is. I think you said earlier, is there something that's very piercing about it that can get to places that, and I didn't know that from the church scale, right? But I got to experience it on a scale that is, I mean, it's pretty immeasurable. Like, it's so widespread. A year later, I'm still getting messages, DMs from people in countries I have no idea even existed, that they're just now seeing this season or whatever it may be. And they're telling me how much it meant to them. And it's talking about, like, again, I love when I get people that are telling me that, like, the music is amazing, but like the way you carry yourself or the whatever. And it feels so good. I didn't necessarily need that confirmation, but it does feel good to know I went into this telling my wife, I'm going to be me, right? Like, and I'm going to have fun with it. Like, I'm kind of a like silly person by nature, and I don't want to play it too cool. I want to have fun with this. I want to, if they want me to sing on a giant rock, I'm going to sing on a giant rock. Right. And I had no idea that I would actually do that, by the way. That was insane. But it is, it's, I think it's something that, I'm just realizing that you have to chase your dreams, right? You have to. And whatever that may be, I'm not built with that super drive that I know of other people who have it. And there's parts of me that's jealous of that, because I love watching somebody really like put their nose to the grind and turn something out of nothing. And I've tried that through the years, but it literally sucks my soul dry.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm miserable when I'm doing that. At the same time, I think there is something about continuing to be the best you can be. I get around a lot of people who are talented, but they don't want to work it. They don't want to put the work in. They just want the top tier. That's all they want. And it's that old adage of like, you know, being a 20-year-old wanting your parents' house. Yeah. It's like, no, dummy, that took a lifetime of getting there.
Sure.
And maybe some people can do it faster, but nobody's going to bypass the work. And being prepared for those moments, those opportunities, and then, but never feeling at the same time, but never feeling entitled to it. There's that balance that you walk of like, I'm meant for this, but I'm not entitled to this.
Right.
And if you can walk that balance, it's really amazing. And again, technically I lost, right? Like I got runner up, right?
No,
but there is absolutely zero negative that I took away from any of it. And to be honest, we didn't get into it a whole lot here, but the year that I've had afterwards, my wife's health, multiple surgeries, she had COVID with bilateral pneumonia during the middle of it. I had an appendectomy in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Like it's been the craziest year. And if I hadn't have gotten second place, I would have been tied to a contract that would have put so much pressure on us that it's really amazing to see the way that things worked out. And you know, the kid that won, he is one of the loveliest humans, and watching him, he's getting ready to release an album. And it's perfect for him. He's a teenager.
Right.
And it's perfect. It's so for me, I got to come back home and still do what I love. You know, the good thing is, I go to a show and I used to might make, you know, couple $100. Now I can charge a lot more now.
Yeah.
So,
you got a resume.
I got a resume and I got some clout and
so what's next for Jim Ranger? I know, you know, COVID's still in the category or in the mindset. Any ideas or any plans of maybe touring and sharing the love?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're I got a couple different things coming up where I'm going to go out and do some shows with some of the people from the show, actually. And I'm going to go do some songwriting with Ian, who was on the show with me. He made it to the finale. I'll go back, and another guy who was Ryan Berg from Texas. He made it to like the third round. We're really tight buds. So we're going to go back there. We're going to do some shows together. And then, I don't know, we're going to kind of start booking stuff from out. But for me, so far, like my wife just got somewhat healthy about a couple months ago. Mm-hmm. And in that couple months, she started, you know, trying to get her legs back underneath her and figure out this new way of doing life and medicine and all the different things. And so we're just now at a place where we're going to kind of start doing that stuff. So I'm really excited. It's felt like I don't have any regrets. Life gets real simple when you're just trying to make sure your wife is alive. So just take care of kids, take care of that, and all the hopes and dreams are pointless if she's not involved. So I don't have any regrets about that, but we're both ready. You know, it feels like this door is still open. Everybody I've talked to as far as that booking and different things like that, they're like, no, that door's not closed, man.
No. I mean, I know you've done some nonprofit stuff here locally in the last year, which is awesome. I'd love to see your name on the lineup. Yep. Mayor's Ball. Yep. I mean, you're still out there. You're just starting. And, you know, I'm going to say this uneducatedly. Yeah. I know you worked hard. You worked hard from the day you can sing at 5 years old or whenever it was when you started with mom and dad. And so you've put your work into it. But when I see Jim Ranger perform, it's real, it's natural, and it doesn't look like it's hard for you to just let it go.
Thanks, man.
You know, it's a little different than an athlete trying to throw a baseball 110 miles an hour when really 70 is max. You don't overdo it. It's just it just flows, and it's natural. And it's not it's a performance, but it doesn't look like you need to do anything to perform. It just it's Jim. I think it's the same Jim at the store, the same Jim at church, the same Jim on The Voice. And that's what I love about you. Thanks, and your family. Yeah. It's just being real. So.
Well, I appreciate it, man. And I really do. That is the, people can compliment me on singing and all that all day, and it's lovely. But but that right there, that's
the human element.
That's the thing that I always, music and stuff can, what I record now will be out of style in 10 years, but human kindness never goes out of style, and it's always remembered.
No, absolutely. Well, Jim, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you coming on. I really wanted to share your life story with our listeners.
Yeah, we dove in, man.
There's a lot about your music career, and it's beautiful and it's awesome. And we're going to see that and watch you bloom and grow and perform moving forward. But I really wanted to get deep, and I appreciate you taking the time out today to do that with us.
That's a blast, man. Thank you for having me.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jim Ranger. Thank you, buddy.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
This show has been brought to you by the Law Office of Kyle Jones, Troy Burton with the Lynn Company, CPA John Duffield, Scott Hansen Real Estate Lender, Broker and Investor, and Shannon Eckroth with the Eckroth Sales and Marketing Agency, LLC. You've been listening to the Our 2 Cents podcast. Check out the show notes for links and more information about the show. Also visit our website at our2centspodcast.com or catch us on Instagram at Our 2 Cents Podcast. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe